All right, so in this training session, I'm very privileged to have Scott Brown from Stairtek with us. Scott has worked with Floor Coverings International for, gosh, how long has it been, Scott? It's been a while.
Gosh, it's been, I counted by trips to Mexico, right? It's been probably 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Although, ironically, this year we had to miss it. We've just gotten too busy. And that date was bad for us this year. So really look forward to that every year. And we hope to be there next year. But that's how I keep track with you. I think it's been about 7 trips to Mexico. So about
Yes.
7 years we've been working with FCI.
I know it's been a while. I know it's been a while. Well, a lot of people struggle with, for whatever reason, a lot of people struggle with doing hardwood on stairs, doing hardwood or LVP or laminate on stairs. It seems pretty straightforward to take carpet off and put carpet back on. But if somebody really wants to upgrade the look of their home, I can't think of a better way than to take carpet off the stairs and to make a central focal point with a nice, beautiful hardwood staircase. So what Scott's going to walk us through today, Stairtek is our partner for being able to deliver pre-finished hardwood stairs. They have other offerings as well that I'll let Scott go into, but if you needed a stair nose or something, typically you're going to get that from the manufacturer where you're buying the hardwood. But most of the time, these manufacturers don't do full stair treads in hardwood. And so we've partnered up with Stairtek. They do a fantastic job replicating the same stain colors. I don't know how they do it. They've got magic sauce where they figure out exactly what the stain color is, and they can match your stairs exactly to the way that the manufacturer not only colored them but also textured them. So with that, Scott, would you walk us through how to use the Order My Stair system?
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Arlen. Yeah, we've been with FCI for, like I said, 7 or 8 years, maybe. We've been doing this. We've been in business for almost 20 years now. So back when even a pre-finished floor was just coming into the market, that was our background. We were a floor company, just like you. And we saw that need for pre-finished stairs to match the pre-finished floor because we're back there staining them and trying to finish them to make it look good enough for the customer. So that's where the birth of Stairtek happened. And we've really grown since those days, from doing it ourselves by hand to just automation. And now, as you'll see, that we are offering a laminate or a vinyl stair tread. So it's really evolved. This system that I'm going to show you, called Order My Stairs, or OMS, has really changed how we're able to reach to the customer. The ability to come on to this site, which is a browser-based site, you can access it from anywhere. But it really makes it easy for you to see the library of colors that we have and to custom quote, all the different sizes and colors and textures. It's really made it easy for the customer to do that, or for your FCIs, you franchisees, to really get that price so that you can get your customer a quote very quickly. Like I said, it is browser based, whether you're, quoting them in the customer's house at their kitchen table, or while you're standing in their foyer, or if you just come back to your office, later and provide and build that quote. It's, you have that ability. It's very user friendly. Because it's browser based, like I said, you can log in to it from your phone, even if you had to get a quick quote. Logging in, you can have for your company as many emails as you want. If you have other salespeople, but everyone in your organization will see each other's quotes. Okay. So you don't have to worry about if the customer calls back later. Everybody will be able to access each other's quotes, and you can place the order directly through the Order My Stairs system. So let's start. Let me share my screen. I'm gonna have to get my glasses here. There we go. All right. Hopefully you can see that all right, Arlen.
Yep, we've got it.
All right. So once you're logged in, And again, you'll get a your login information. Usually it's your email, and then you just create a password and you access it that easy. I'm going to move this. Okay. So this is your home screen. Again, it's very simple to navigate. We're going to go through, we're going to make a couple quotes, 2 or 3 quotes to show you really how easy it is and where all the details are, but it's really very easy to navigate. So this is the home screen. You'll see different announcements when they're appropriate, when they pop up. If we have something to announce, you'll see those there at the top. The ribbon of colors or thumbnails that you see in the middle, those are just maybe the 12 or 15 most popular quoted or ordered floors. You could start a quote just by clicking on one of those specific floors. But most people will start a quote from this big blue start quote button, and we'll do that here in a minute. At the bottom of your home screen, you'll see all of your recent quotes, as well as your recent orders. You'll see the customer's name, the date, a quote number, and as we do this, you'll see how that works. Going through the site, at the top, you'll see the tab to just jump to the stair parts. It's a way to learn. You could start a quote by selecting a product, but it's there. You'll see this same look throughout OMS as you're quoting. But I'm just going through the tabs to show you where they take you. The history tab at the top just takes you to the history of all of your quotes and your orders if you have to refer back to them. And then the final tab over is your resource tab. This OMS system was created or written by a Stairtek employee. So this developer, he's right down the office from me. So when there's changes, they can happen pretty quick. We can make those changes. If you have suggestions, we're always willing, or we love to hear those. But right now, under the OMS training, there really isn't much there. But look for changes in the future on that. The next module over is product knowledge. Again, like the stair parts tab, it's just really information on each part. Maybe, how to measure for it. There's different views of the part. Kind of talks to you in a little bit more detail about each part. So it's a great place to learn about what we offer. Okay. The tab under that, right under the product knowledge, there's this texture tab. Okay. So what this is, so how it works with FCI and really all of our customers is when we receive a sample of a floor, and by the way, we have matched almost 20,000 floors to date. So we have a very large library that's available to you. And when I say library, I mean floor specific to that color. So when we get a new sample, if you're going through the library and you're looking for a color and it's not in there, then we would just get a sample of that floor, either from you or the manufacturer. And then we will add that new floor to the library. And that's how our library grows every day, really. We're adding new floors. But when we get that floor, what we do is we catalog it not only by the species of the floor and the color, of course, but we also look at the texture. So we're matching, like Arlen was saying, not only to the color, but to the texture, okay, as best as we can. And this is just a place where you can see images of our textures. So, the light hand scrape, narrow hand scrape, there's quite a few there. Heavy resawn, for instance. Now, what it means, though, is that because we catalog it, you don't need to know the difference between these. You don't need to know the difference between light resawn or heavy resawn. But when you create a quote for a customer, in that quote, if that floor had, say, light resawn texture, it's going to say it in the quote, and they might ask you, well, what is that? What's the light resawn? What is all my quote? Maybe their flooring was labeled as a distressed floor, for instance. This could be just a place that you show them this is what their resawn or heavy resawn texture looks like. That's going to be applied to the treads as well. Okay. Just showing you that this is here in case you ever had that question of what that might look like. Okay. Frequently asked questions, self-explanatory. If you're training somebody, if someone's, looking through, there might be an answer in here that you might not get from us if we're not available or whatnot. But that's just a frequently asked question module. And that's it. That's the 30,000 foot look at it. Your real details are when you're going to start a quote. Okay. So you're standing in your customer's foyer and they are pulling carpet off of their existing staircase, and you have asked them the question, well, what about the stairs, right? Maybe they hadn't even thought about the stairs. So, asking that question, will really have them think about it. Okay. And then this is where you would go to start that quote to give them a price for stair parts that match that specific floor. And it's really at this start the quote button. So starting the quote, there are 3 different types of floors that we match. Okay. Or think of it as 3 different libraries. Okay. So we offer unfinished. Maybe you're working with a builder and they're going to site finish the floors and they want to site finish the stairs as well. We certainly offer, the unfinished species, your common ones, even some of the exotics are available on here to special order. We do keep quite a bit of inventory. So this will give you a nice quote with a really good lead time. Okay. The other 2, so the next one over, the green, is the next step we call, which is the laminate and LVT floors. That's I didn't go into that too much, but we only recently started to offer these. We have been offering them for a few years, but until recently, say, maybe almost a year now, we were buying vinyl from another vendor. We would buy the vinyl in a color, and then we would wrap the treads, and mostly for some of our big box customers. Well, we made the investment about a year ago to do all of the printing, the wrapping. Everything happens here in Northern Kentucky. We control it all now. And because we have a printer and we do it all, we're able to offer you 12 treads. I don't have to print a 500-foot roll of that vinyl. So we can print 12 feet or 12 treads. So that really opened the opportunity for everyone to be able to offer all of the available colors. And inside of this library, there's probably already 6,000 different colors that we've matched. So we'll get into that, but that's what that category is. The one that's really got us to where we are is the pre-finished wood, the blue box. And just by selecting this blue box, it's going to take us to our library and we can start this quote. So, quite a few here. We do keep samples for about 2 years, and then we like to get a fresh one just because if there's a drift, we want to make sure that we have the best representation of that floor. So sometimes you might see that we have, for instance, this 3 Rivers shawl floor. Okay, you can still quote it, but it's telling you that the sample that we have has expired. We will probably need a new sample for that floor. Okay. On the left side, you can see where you can search by color name. You can sort by, the manufacturer, AHF, Armstrong, Cali Bamboo. I mean, there's a bunch of them in here. Again, it's a big list.
But Scott, just a question here.
Yeah.
When you talk about needing a sample, if the hardwood floor has a lot of color variation, how many pieces do you need to get a good sample?
Sure. No, that's a great question. So it's different for wood and vinyl. So the process, like we were talking a little bit about, is when we get a new sample. In the case of a wood floor, really what we like to see to have the best matches, we would want to see enough of the floor so that we can see all the variance in the floor, because we're going to match to the sample that you send us, right? So in some cases, like a maple floor, you may not need as much. In case of a hickory or something that has texture, we might need a few more boards, just enough. And I would say on average, it's probably 3 to 4 boards. And they don't have to be long, just maybe think of a, 2 foot by 2 foot sample. Just enough, again, to show the variance. In the case of vinyl, though, if we haven't matched it, I will need a full box because how we create the file that we print, we have to lay that entire box of flooring out. Okay. And once we lay it out, we get the image, we get the high def image, and then we have, the folks that are around the hall, the smart people down the hall, they'll do all the photoshopping to get all the flooring lines out of that image. And then we're able to print. And the file that we print, it's actually a super large file that's 10 feet long by 4 feet wide. And it's such a large file so that when we print, say 12 treads, you're not going to have the same tread every time. So if they had a knot in that floor, you wouldn't have the knot in the same place on that staircase, because then of course it doesn't look natural. And that's kind of the goal with those, is they look real, right? So that's why our our file is so large, and why we need such a full box of flooring in the case of a laminate or a vinyl floor. To your question, wood, again, a few boards to show us the variance is really all that we need.
Thank you. Thank you.
And your vendors are very good with sending us samples, whether it's Shaw or really any of them, they send us a small, box of a floor. No problem. We get them, again, probably every day. We'll get, new samples that we enter on here. Okay.
And sorry, Scott. So this is a question that I get asked sometimes.
Sure.
So I mean, you've got Armstrong on here, you've got AHF on here. In that particular case, if it's a hardwood board that used to be done by Armstrong but now is under the AHF flag, would you find that under Armstrong or would you find it under AHF?
It's a great question. I would say if you don't see it under Armstrong, check AHF. Because again, this list has been going on for 20 years, and we haven't done a great job, I guess, of combining those new companies that are now all AHF. So if you don't see it under Anderson or Armstrong, and I can't even Bruce, for instance, if you don't see it there, check under the AHF or the old brand like Bruce.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, let's select one. Let's since you mentioned it, let's start a quote for this Armstrong black and brown. Okay. Well, and before I do that, you see how you could have searched for the color name, and then it would have pulled it up. I would probably suggest that if the manufacturer, try to filter that out, because if I typed in gun stock in here, there's probably 50 gun stocks, right? So it's pretty well able, you can filter out even by species or even collection. So I think you'll find it very easy once you get going, to find that floor. Let's start the quote, black and brown by Armstrong. All right, so you'll see now that Armstrong black and brown is there on the left side. And then all the available parts that are in that color. Now, this might be a little confusing. I'm working with Mike down the hall to try to move these out of this view, because they say not available. And what these are, the next step tread and the next step modern tread, those are the parts for vinyl. Okay, so we don't make the vinyl tread in this. This is a real wood floor. So I want to move this out of the way, because we do, of course, offer this color in those same treads in real wood. Okay, but let's just look. I mean, so all of these parts are available. What I like to do at this point is I like to kind of filter these out. It might make this easy, and it's something to talk to. So there's basically 3 types of treads. Okay, and then each of these types of treads, you can configure them to have a left side that's finished, or the right side, or both sides in the case of an open staircase. But really, I like to point out that there's really only 3 types of treads. And what are they? So we have a box tread, a box retread, and a box modern retread. So what do we mean? First of all, what do you mean by box? So in the stair world, box is always is referring to that this stair tread has two walls or two stringers on the left and the right side. So this tread drops in between, you know, those stringers or the wall. That's what box tread means. Okay. And same with the box retread. So they're not finished on the left side or the right side. For instance, the left return tread, see how that left side is finished? That's for a staircase that's open. You know, there's balusters or spindles, if you want to call them, that are mounted right into the face of the stair tread because the left side is open. Okay, that's what we call a left return tread. Okay, and it's just this box tread that has the finished end on it. Okay, and well, I'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. But let's continue this. So we have the box tread. What's a tread? A tread is a 1-inch thick tread. It's typically used for new construction. You could use it to cover an existing tread if you wanted. People did it for years before the retread and the modern retread were invented. But a tread is typically used in new construction because of its thickness. Because it's 1 inch, it's structural. You're able to build a new set of steps out of it. Not the case for the retreads. These are designed to go right over top of an existing stair. So the customer is pulling carpet off and they're going to cover that existing staircase with this nice black and brown Armstrong color on their stair treads. Okay. So a retread, what's the difference between a retread and the modern retread? They're installed the same. The only difference is that the retread has a rounded nose and the modern retread has a flat nose. Okay. And I'll show you that in more detail here in a second. All right. So those are the 3 types of treads. And then everything else are just kind of, add-ons to these, if you want to think of it like that. All right, let's continue the quote and let's quote this box retread. All right, here's what it looks like. This is the side profile of it. You have your depth from the front to the back. The thickness of both types of retreads are 5/8. And then here's the dimension from the top to the bottom. All right, how to measure for these, how to measure for a retread is real simple. You're going to be cutting them to fit because no staircase is exactly a dimension, right? So you're going to be cutting both sides to fit. So really, you just have to make sure when you're measuring that you're measuring and you're ordering a tread that's long enough to be cut to fit in there. Okay. So for this part, real simple, really. All right. At this point in this quote, we are going to select the sizes. In the retread, in this red oak retread that we're using, we have the sizes available from 36 all the way up to 96 inches. All right. OMS is really great about this and giving you and enabling you to do a custom quote. So we're going to choose a 42-inch in length tread. And then you notice the depth. It's asking you for the depth. 11.5 is the standard depth on all of our treads. They all start out at 11.5. What's great about OMS, maybe you're in a situation where you need something that's deeper. And you can see where you can quote this all the way up to 18 inches deep. All right. And you can see when you do that, it changes that price. Okay. Because there's going to be, of course, more labor material to do that. And it adjusts that price. All right. So the next texture, well, the thickness is 5/8. You can't change that. Those are always going to be 5/8. The next one is the textures. So you'll see where there's a check box. All right. And when we talked about the textures before, so on this Armstrong black and brown floor, the floor has a light wire brush. And you can see it here. We've cataloged that. In this case, that texture is not a required texture. Sometimes it is. Sometimes we have to texture it in order to get a good color match. If that were the case, you would not have the ability to check or uncheck this. Okay. In this case, it's not required, so it's up to you. Do they want that texture or not? And of course, you can see that it changes that price. So let's include it. I would always include our textures, just so that it's the best match. But again, if you get pushback from the customer, it's up to them, really. All right, so we have everything. That one tread is 138.34. Now, the pricing that is on OMS is with 100% markup. Okay, that means that your cost is half of this. All right. We did this so that if you are working on the system, maybe with the customer at their kitchen table or wherever, they can see that they're looking at a retail price. Okay, now it's up to you to maybe you can discount this if that's what you're going to do, or they're not going to see your costs, I guess is the point.
So just sorry, while you're on this screen, just two quick points. If
Sure.
you go back up to the width for a second. So, or excuse me, the length. I would call it the width, but the length. So if I'm reading this right, I don't need to measure that it's 38 and 3/4 of an inch wide. What I really need to understand is that these stair treads come in 6-inch increments. So unless I'm right at the edge of an increment, all I'm really trying to do is make sure that I have enough and let the installer cut it to fit.
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah, good point. Good call out on that. And I'll show you, towards the end, how, tools for the installer, and kind of why, you really want to make sure you have enough. Say that first step is measuring at 36, or maybe it's 35 7/8. And yes, I can, the 36 is going to work. Well, the first step at the bottom, the first step on a staircase might be different than the one at the top. So you really want to make sure if you're right at that 36, for instance, make sure that you measure each one, because you don't want to be short.
Got it. And I like the fact that you pointed out that the price that you see on the screen is the customer's price with 100% markup, or if you're looking at it from a margin standpoint, it's a 50% gross margin. So either way, 100% markup or 50% gross margin. Good, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so real simple, we're just going to add 12 of those. 12 is a pretty typical quantity for a staircase, and we'll add those to the cart. Now we can be finished and go straight to the cart, or we can go back to the stair parts. So let's go back to stair parts, because again, for this customer, we're covering an existing set of steps. So we got the tread that's going to cover the part of the tread of the stair that you're walking on, right? So we need to cover the riser, which is the vertical part. All right, so let's select the riser, and just like the tread, we're going to come through and add the dimensions that we need. Okay, same with the textures. All right, and that will be the vertical part of the stair, the riser. Now this is kind of important. So what we've quoted there is the matching riser, that Armstrong Brown. Well, it's a very popular look for a customer to have a white riser, right? So we offer a primed white riser, and you're simply going to select that here right next to the stain, and that switches it from the stained riser to a primed white riser. Okay, so it's a very popular look. I would say most of our customers that we see go with a white riser. It's just, I guess, the trend or what's been popular. It is primed, so it's ready for the final coat of white paint. We did for a while offer a white painted or finished riser, but like everything, I mean, there's 1,000 different whites, right? So we would suggest that they, the installer paint these ahead of time to the white that matches the rest, the stringers or the moldings or whatever white they want. These are primed white. And I'm sure there are quite a few people out there that are happy with just the primed white, and there are primed white risers that are installed around the world. And it is 2 coats of primed white primer, so it's a nice look already. But you should paint that. All right, so quantity. So we had 12 treads. There is always one more riser than there are treads. If there was a landing in this staircase, there would actually be 2 extra risers. But hopefully you're standing there and you can count them, or the customer can count them and give you the exact quantity. But there's always one more. If there's a landing, there would actually be 2 more risers than treads. So we'll add those to the cart. So for the final piece of this for this customer is at the top, right? So we have the treads and the risers all covered. Now at the top, where the stair meets that second floor, you're going to need a transition or like a stair nose, right? So let's go back to stair parts and look to see what's available in that nosing. Like the treads, we offer the nosing in the same 3 profiles, right? So the standard nosing for the 1-inch treads, the retro nosing that we're going to need, and then that modern retro nosing. Okay, so let's select the retro nosing. In this case, there's two options for length, 48 or 96. We'll only need the 48. Same with the textures. We are going to, want to include the textures. Now, one pretty important thing to know is that on the thickness, everything from us is going to be 3/4 of an inch thick. Okay, so I'm not sure what the thickness of this floor is, if it's an engineered floor or not. But everything from us is going to be 3/4 of an inch. If that's not going to work, then you may have to go with a nosing from the manufacturer. But everything from us is 3/4 of an inch thick. So now, speaking of that, I mean, this is what that side profile looks like. Say this floor is a 9/16 inch floor. It shouldn't be a problem for your installer to rip the bottom of this on a table saw. But if they're not comfortable with that cut, they may want to go with the nosing from the manufacturer. But just please remember that anything from us is going to be 3/4 of an inch. Okay. All right, so let's add that one nosing to the cart, and we now have everything that we need for this customer to cover her steps. All right, so we're in the shopping cart. What can we do still? We can still add comments if we wanted, an attachment if you needed to send a picture or a drawing or something. And then it's up to you to select the shipping type. All right, so selecting the shipping type takes us to two options. We have the FedEx Ground or FedEx Freight. Now, this may change in the future to also offer UPS, but currently FedEx Ground is our exclusive shipper. So what's the difference? You should know, or you might know this, FedEx Ground, that's small packages. So when this comes to your address, it's going to come, maybe 3 or 4 treads per box, and you might get 7 or 8 boxes, right? And the cost on that is $110.57. We don't mark up the freight. All right, that will be your cost on this shipment. The other option is FedEx Freight LTL. You can see it's more expensive, but it's going to come to you on a pallet. And in the case of this, we only had, 26 pieces. So it's more affordable to go with the FedEx Ground. If this order say had 100 treads, it would be less expensive to ship this on a pallet or on LTL. So we leave that up to you to decide. We ship hundreds of boxes a day. Our packaging is good, so feel confident that when they come in a box, they're going to be well protected. All right. Okay, then going down, we selected our shipping, and you can see the totals here. And then you see the total or the lead time of 21 to 25 days. That is a pretty accurate lead time, and that's delivered to you. Okay. Again, we ship from Northern Kentucky, so if you're close to us, it's going to be on the short end of that 21 to 25 days. If you're on the West Coast, then it might be that 25 days. But that lead time is going to change based on the parts that you're ordering. So if these were unfinished, this lead time might be 3 to 5 days. Okay, so it builds that lead time based on the products that you have ordered. All right. So then we
just one point while we're there. So it's fine. From this screen, you can see that the total cost of these parts, and these were all boxed retreads, is $2,300. Now, granted, that's the customer's price, but I want to look at this from the customer's perspective for just a moment. Let's say that you've got $2,300 worth of material, and maybe you're going to charge your customer, I don't know, $800, $1,000 for the labor part of it. Yes, that is accurate to say that it probably costs for the customer, not your cost, but the price to the customer. It's not unheard of to have a simple boxed staircase cost $3,000 to the customer. So from the customer's perspective, they may say, "Oh my gosh, that's really expensive." The reality is that's what it costs to do it. I mean, that really is what it costs to do it. It is it's like doing another room in the house, except that you're working in multiple planes and at multiple heights. So if people that are watching this training have never priced out a staircase, and 3,000, by the time we start putting some left returns, right returns, or a starter step at the bottom, we could be at a $4,000 or $5,000 staircase really, really fast. And if that seems like a price shock to you, just a recommendation that you sort of get your head around it, because that really is what it costs to do a set of stairs.
Yeah, no, great point, and I can speak to that too. We sell our parts through really several different resources. The big box stores, they all have our parts. And then some distributors around. But I can tell you that your price on these is as good or better than really anybody's. So feel very confident in that. If it is a sticker shock to you, don't be shocked, because it's what people pay, and they pay it all the time. The value that you're getting with these pre-finished parts. So not only is it a good match, because if this customer wants, they're putting in the new floor, you walk into their house and they have this new floor, and then they have the old ugly carpet. This is the focal point. This is what people see when they first walk into their house. So you're getting a 25-year warranty on this. If the installer really wants to put flooring on the staircase and cover the stairs using flooring, that's not the best look, and it's not the best value for your customer, because there's no warranty on flooring when it's put on stairs. Whereas with ours, it's aluminum oxide finish. It wears forever. It wears very good, and they're just adding value. The value that's added to their house with this project, it's a good one. It's as good as or better than even the floor, the value that it's adding. So feel good about the price, and your price compared to what else is selling out on the market. So then to continue, so we're just going to finish up this quote again. Right now, it's still a quote. So the customer's phone number, email, you can do all of that. Then it's just a matter of saving that quote. And here is what I was referring to earlier. So there's a PDF button there, right? So here is a nice printable quote that you might leave with the customer, or email it to them, or however you want to give it to them. And you can see where it says light wire brush in that description. Whoops. They might ask if that said resawn texture or something. That's why I was kind of showing you where those images of our textures, where they live. So you might need to refer to those. All right. So that PDF, if you need it, is there. Simply selecting OK, and now that quote lives down here at the bottom of your homepage under recent quotes. Okay. Notice I'm not very creative with names, because I always just use my name. I should probably get better at that.
So nothing else, Brown 1, Brown 2, Brown 3.
Right. I mean, that's going to be confusing for somebody someday, right? So there's the quote. They will live down there for 30 days, and then they might expire. And, like I said, if you get that to the customer, they want to think about it. They call you back the next day and say, hey, we want to go forward with those steps. Anyone that has access of your company's access to OMS can just come back to this and go back to that quote just by selecting that quote number. All right. So this is where we were. You're able to modify the quote or submit it as an order by pressing the blue button, clicking on it. And it takes us back to where we were. So maybe they decided they wanted the matching riser, or they don't need the nosing. You're still able to remove or edit or add the quantity, update the quantity, because it was just still a quote, right? And if everything looks good, here is the submit order button. Okay. Submitting that order, entering the phone number, the email, make sure everything's in there. Then it's just a matter of submitting that. So once you submit the order, we will get an email here at Stairtek, and then you'll also get an email that has your cost pricing on it. Okay. That way, you can keep track of that actual costs. And then once you've done that, that order or that quote has moved from recent quotes to recent orders. And here's the date. And you can see that the status is showing processing. Once we get the order, and we get them right away, but once we get that, we'll put it into production, and this status will say in production. Then from in production, as it goes through, the status will change to a shipped status, and then finally a delivered status. So you could follow through or follow along with the order through OMS if we aren't available. Our customer service and our phone number here right up in the announcements. If there's ever a question, give us a call. If it's after hours, you might, if you have a customer that's really asking, you might find the answer right down there on the status. Okay, so that's it. I mean, that's a typical quote or a typical order for a customer that wants their stairs to go from carpet to that matching color. Any questions? Any questions about that?
No, that's pretty clear. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so let's jump to the next step. So these are this is the trend, right? We all know it. Everybody's, the laminate and the LVT floors that are out there, they're so realistic and they're cost competitive. So we had to get into this market. We were wood people forever. We resisted, didn't think it was going to make it. Well, guess what? Now we're doing the laminate and vinyl, and this product has taken off. The idea again of trying to put flooring with a stair nose and try to create a step, it just isn't the good look. A full stair tread is what consumers are really starting to demand. I mean, we're seeing it with our business. Other companies are popping up offering full stair treads. So it really is what people want, and it's best. There's not a trip hazard with an overhang nosing. These are full smooth stair treads. All right, so we just accessed our library. A little bit different look than the wood, but you can see where you can just search by the manufacturer. I think we have some of your brands. That one's doesn't matter too much. Let's just look at the AHF. Let's look at the Autumn Wave, and this is what that color looks like. All right, there's that Autumn Wave by AHF. So unlike the wood treads, we do not offer a 1-inch thick tread covered in vinyl. Okay, so anything that's vinyl wrapped is going to be either the retread or the modern retread. Okay, and you can see them right there at the top. So let's look at that modern profile in this laminate tread. So what's kind of cool about this is that it actually puts that color on this 3D modeler, and you can see what that color looks like on this tread. Okay, so it's kind of cool. Couple things to point out on these types of treads is you'll notice that nose looks a little bit different. It's made out of a different material. And it is. It's made out of real wood. It's either a pine. Usually, it's a pine nose. And the reason we do that is so that one, it's durable. You know, it's going to get kicked by the foot all the time. And the other design about it is that if the customer decided or they're not sure, maybe they want to put a carpet runner down this staircase someday, this wood nose will hold a staple or a nail. You can't say that about really any other plastic or MDF nosing. You would never be able to put a carpet runner down those because it won't hold a nail, whereas ours, you know, that'll hold a staple or a nail. So just one feature. Another feature about the modern profile in both the laminate and the wood is that this tread will go right over top of dimensional lumber and hide it. What do I mean by dimensional lumber? Like if you've pulled off the carpet and you find that underneath that carpet you had 2x12s. Maybe this is a set of basement steps where the treads were made out of 2x12s. This profile, this type of tread will hide. It covers the exact or the total thickness of dimensional lumber. So just one other added feature of that modern profile. Okay. So just like wood, you're just going to select the sizes you need. These are only available currently in either 36, 42, or 48. All right. Most staircases, I can tell you, most staircases are either going to be 36 or 42. But we do offer 48 as well. So let's look at that same 42-inch tread. We cannot change the depth on the laminate treads. They're always going to be 11 and a half. Okay, and again, that's from the front of the tread to the back. The thickness on the laminate treads is 3/8 rather than 5/8. And that, other than that, that's the that's the only difference really. Okay, but look at that price, right? 91.82 again is retail. Your cost is half that. It's just a fantastic price for what they're getting. You know, again, you're getting a full tread. These actually have a 30-year warranty on them. So the finish is extremely durable. It wears extremely well. I believe the AC rating on it is a 4. If that means anything to you. So they wear very well. Okay.
So Scott, one of the things that that I know gets kicked around is with a hardwood, going with a traditional hardwood stair tread. If a customer wants to do a carpet runner later, they can do a carpet runner.
Correct.
One of the disadvantages of using like the LVP treads that are offered by the manufacturers is it's entirely LVP, and so you really can't staple a carpet runner to it.
That's right.
What about these?
Right. So yeah, like I was saying, you can because of that nose. The nose here is made of real wood. It's typically pine, and so when you would put a carpet runner down there, you can shoot a staple into this nose, and it's gonna hold. MDF or plastic, it's not going to hold a nail. It's going to blow it out. So, you know, putting a carpet runner down this, you would staple it in the front, and then you'd staple into the back where that wood riser is. Okay, so yeah, there is a definite advantage if a carpet runner is being thought about, you know, or they're contemplating doing that either today or someday as they get older, whatever. But yeah, for sure, it's an advantage for us with this product.
And then one thing that I also noticed on the screen is you've got that there's an aluminum oxide coating on this, and I know you do that on your hardwood treads as well. If you know, if an installer just took a bare tread in their garage and put some put some stain and some polyurethane on it, it might look good for a little while, but because stairs get so much use,
Sure.
it's not going to look good for very long.
For sure.
With Stairtek's process of putting aluminum oxide on the stair treads, that's going to give a lot of protection to that tread. And I'll just point out that Stairtek does the same thing on their laminate treads as well.
Correct. That it's a coating that, again, it's a UV cured finish. It's applied through the factory where, you know, they run down the line, the finish is applied and goes through the UV light tunnel and it cures instantly. And it's just, again, it's just super, super hard, and it's a factory finish. You know, some people have, you know, used the analogy of painting your car. You know, you think that you could go out and paint your car and have the same finish as the factory. Well, of course not, right? But not to say that there aren't good finishes out there. I mean, there are some good urethanes out there. And there, of course, there's craftsmen that, you know, can apply a stain and apply a finish. But ours, you're not going to find a UV cured finish in the field. Even though they have come out with some technologies where you can use a handheld UV light to cure those finishes. You know, they are improving, but ours is installed, you know, in the factory, and really it can't be beat. So great. I appreciate that question. That really helps, I think. So let's talk about, I'm going to choose this left return. So same color, same everything. Let's talk about it. We talked a little bit about what a return tread is, and I'm going to show you that with our laminate treads and of course our wood treads. When you order this left return tread, and oh, by the way, a left or right return tread, it's determined by facing the staircase. Okay, so we're looking at this tread on the screen and we are facing the staircase. So this is the left side, this is the right side. The wrong way to do that would be if you're coming down the staircase, it's always facing the staircase. So this left side is open, and that's why you need a finished side on that left side. Okay, with ours, and I don't think anybody else is doing this, but when you order a left return tread, the tread comes with that return end already installed. We make that difficult cut. We install that so that the installer doesn't have to, because it's not easy. It is not an easy cut to cut that. And let me see if I can zoom in on this, but you'll see where we actually miter it into the tread. We just don't tack it onto the end. We put a nice miter on that, and which is the way that's supposed to be done. And it's not easy. Okay, it's not an easy thing. So from us, because I know there's other competitors out there, but from us, that comes already installed. Any question about that? The left and the right and the double. And of course, this is the right side, and a double means that you'd have a return end on both sides.
I tend to explain it. You said facing the stairs. I tend to say if you're standing at the bottom of the stairs and looking at it, right? If you're standing at the bottom, left is finished on the left, right's finished on the right.
Correct. So this is what that double is going to look like, right? So return on both sides, the right side and the left side. All right, so maybe you're already thinking ahead of me, right? So in this case, when you have a left or a right, and to fit that in when you're covering the steps, you would cut, the side that's not finished, of course. In the case of a double return, well, what do? You can't cut it to fit. So here in OMS, what it's asking for is what the throat dimension is. And the throat dimension is the dimension between the return ends, or the inside of the return ends from one end to the other. That's the dimension that we need. All right. So knowing that the largest tread that we offer is a 48-inch tread, the largest throat would be a 46, because the return end itself is an inch wide. This return end is an inch wide. So on a 48-inch double return tread, the largest you can have right now is a overall 48 with a throat dimension of 46. Okay. And of course, anything smaller than that, you would just come here and put that in. Okay. I'll probably touch on that here in a second as well, some more about the throat dimensions and some other things. But any questions at all about what we are offering and or anything on that library that's growing every day?
No, I mean, it makes sense. And I like that you can, I mean, for one like this is when you have one that's open on both ends, this is one where the dimension, the measurement is really, really critical, right? So maybe the first time you do it, you have your installer go back and double check the measurement before you actually finalize it. You know, if you have to change the dimension an inch or two from where your quote was, it's not going to make that much of a difference to the customer, right? I mean,
That's right.
for your cost, who cares? But making sure that it's absolutely right is critical on one like this. As Scott said, if it's returned on one end, it's not so critical because the installer is going to cut it to fit anyway. But in this case, there's no cutting on the job site, so you really have to make sure that it's right.
That's right. All right, let's move on. So as you can see, hopefully by now that OMS it's going to do, you know, most of them. I mean, there aren't too many things that you aren't going to be able to quote on OMS. Now, of course, there's certainly, you know, the 10%, you know, rule where if you walk into a house and it's a big winding, you know, gone with the wind staircase that's radius and curved and all that, you're not going to be able to quote that on OMS. But most everything, you know, I'd say probably 90% of anything that you'll ever need, you'll be able to quote here on OMS. So what I do now, I usually do this when I'm training, is I jump right to the maybe the most difficult or the most in-depth part that we offer. And I'm going to do this in unfinished. And I'm going to do it in unfinished red oak. And what the part that I'm talking about is a double starter tread. Okay. As you can see, we also offer left starter treads and right starter treads. But let's look at a double starter tread. What is it? So probably the one in the middle you're familiar with. Maybe you have a double starter tread in your house, and what it is, it's for an open staircase that has more than likely a baluster that's installed right into the top of the tread. Okay, that's called a starter tread, and in this case, it's a double starter on both sides, right? The other two are somewhat rare, but we offer them. A reversible double starter tread, it's basically the same as the one in the middle, except that we don't cut the throat dimension out. Okay, we've had contractors, you know, ask for that because they weren't sure of what that dimension was going to be just yet, so they want to cut the throat dimension out themselves in the field. So we offer it. It's reversible because you could spin it, and the front can be the back can be the front. That's why we call it reversible. The double quartered, it's just that it's not fully rounded. It's just quartered on the front left and on the front right. But let's look at the double starter tread, because if you can get this, you're a pro. You can get anything. And this also shows some more detail on, you know, how to measure, you know, other things to look for really when you're, you know, out there kind of getting a quote for a customer. So a few things here. You'll see some terms we haven't talked about yet that are kind of exclusive to a starter tread. A turnout depth. It's the dimension that is the widest part, or the diameter of the of that turnout. You have the tread depth, and you have the throat. We talked a little bit about the throat with that double return tread, and then the overall length. So with these 4 dimensions, we'll be able to give this customer a price. Okay, let's look at some tools on how to get those dimensions. Okay, it kind of goes into depth here a little bit about what the starter tread does, and it talks about an 1.25 inch overhang. So really, it's the standard dimension, or it's pretty standard, that any tread, whether it's a starter tread, double starter tread, a retread, it's going to overhang the riser that's below it by 1.25 inches. Okay, that's a typical dimension. Okay, so it kind of calls that out, that and we're going to see why that's important when we quote this. All right. Another thing here to point out is that there's a file. If you need to email, maybe they don't know, or you need to print this out and you kind of give the contractor or the homeowner some homework, get these dimensions to us. We need these to get a price. Okay, so there's that file button there. All right, so let's start to quote this, and I'm just going to make some numbers up. So let's say that the overall length of this tread is, they're usually pretty big. Let's say that it's 60 inches. We'll go nice and round today. So 60 inches overall length. The throat. Let's put in the number, let's make it 33 inches. And as you can see, I need to know all the way down to the eighth of an inch. I'm gonna make it 33 and an eighth. Okay. Can't cut this to fit. This needs to be exact. The turnout, that's the dimension of the diameter, or that big dimension. And you can see it can go all the way up to 26 inches. So I'm gonna make it 26 and a quarter. Tread depth, again, standard is 11 and a half on our treads, but you can make it whatever you want it to be. So I'm gonna make it standard 11 and a half. And now, as you can see, look at that price, $556 for that one tread. Again, your cost is half of that, but that's an expensive tread.
And we don't have the riser yet.
And you don't have the riser yet. So you want to really make sure that you have the correct dimensions before you order this. You don't want to have to order this twice. So this live preview button, it's pretty helpful. Okay. So with the dimensions that I put in, this is what that tread would look like. It looks wrong, right? I've never seen a step like that. So, and this is looking down, bird's eye view down on this tread. So I would probably guess that, wow, I did something wrong, or they measured wrong. There's no way that this is accurate. So it's kind of, the point is that this is the final check on the dimensions that you're inputting, because this will be an easy screen to screenshot. And if you're working through email, is this what your tread looks like? And they'd be like, no, something's wrong. So again, it's just kind of one last check on those dimensions to make sure that you have them correct. All right. Let's add that tread to the cart. You can see now that it's suggesting a starter riser. You don't have to get the starter riser. Maybe you're going to use the one that's already there. But I'd say most of the time people are going to order the starter riser as well. So we talked about the inch and a quarter, right? And again, how to measure for this. What does this look like? Where does this go? So this is the riser that double starter tread sits on top of. Okay. So the inch and a quarter thing that I'm talking about, the overhang, it's pretty important here. Can you imagine if we had to try to come up with the dimensions that were an inch and a quarter smaller than the tread all the way around? Well, that's not math that really anybody wants to do. This auto configure button does that hard math for us, and it's figuring an inch and a quarter overhang. Okay, so this riser now is going to come in an inch and a quarter smaller than the tread all the way around, so that there will be an overhang. All right, and that is a $391 riser. Okay. Any questions about that? That's the hardest part. That's
really nice.
That's the most difficult part. That really.
And I know we did this one for demonstration purposes. I know we did this one as unfinished, but you can get these pre-finished as well, or the riser in primed white.
Correct. You can get them both pre-finished.
Nice.
Yeah, we could have ordered this in Armstrong brown bear or whatever that color was that we had, for sure. All right. Okay, so what I like to do now usually is I like to talk about, on this list of stair parts at the very bottom, you'll see these two accessories. These are really important, and you may or may not get these through us, but they are available. So what are they? So we have a tool and we have some glue. The glue is the most important thing to take away from this, really, because this is going to help you if you don't know this. not only with stair treads, but with anything wood. When you are installing these stair treads, no matter if it's the laminate treads or the wood treads, you want to use an adhesive that is urethane based. And there are others that are not urethane based, but really what you don't want to use is anything that is water based. Because what will happen if you use, say, a liquid nails or something that has water in it, the raw wood or that unfinished wood that's on the bottom of the treads, it's going to draw. It's going to draw the moisture or the water out of that glue, and then those wood fibers of the tread are going to have water in them that's going to want to escape, and they're going to escape out the sides, and your flooring or your stair treads are going to cup and basically be ruined. So real important to use a urethane adhesive. We offer this Bostik tread lock at a very good price, actually. For really any type of glue, if it's this one, you want to use this pattern when you're gluing them down. One of those 10-ounce tubes of adhesive will cover 3 42-inch treads. So when you're figuring how much glue do you need, 1 tube for every 3 treads or risers. Okay. And this would be the pattern, the glue pattern. This isn't a trowel down or full coverage adhesive. You're just going to use that zigzag pattern. All right.
That's a helpful little rule of thumb. 1 tube goes to 3 treads.
Correct. Yeah. It's, it's easy math, right? The next accessory is the tread tool. Okay. This would be a tool for whoever's going to do the installing of the stairs, and whether that's you or your installer. But it's a segue for, how to install as well. But this tread tool is a super inexpensive part. I think your cost on it's, I don't know, $15 or something. And there are other types of tools on the market. Some of them are over 100. In fact, I think most other tools like this that do the same thing are over $100. This is 15. So what does it do? What does this tool do? So what you get in the box are the 2 plastic ends, and with a piece of scrap wood. What he's doing here in the video from our studio is he's capturing the angle on both the right side and on the left side of the staircase. This is a boxed staircase, okay? And, like we talked about, each tread's going to be a little bit different, all right? You would think, and you would be right to think this, that would be a 90-degree cut. This would be a 90-degree cut. Just measure and cut it to fit, right? Well, they should be, but they never are. This angle here that he's capturing is probably a 91 or 89. And then same on the left side, it's going to also, be something probably other than 90. So he's capturing that. He's capturing that on both sides, basically creating a template of what that stair tread needs to be. And then it's a matter of taking the new tread, drawing the line to it, cutting to the line, and then the new stair tread just drops in.
Yeah, I've never seen a set of stairs that's square.
Yeah.
And you would think, well, wait a minute, 1 or 2 degrees, how big of a deal can that make? Well, it doesn't sound like much, but if it's cut 1 degree off, then you end up with a little gap, and that's a little place for the customer to have an issue. I mean, It's just, then you see people trying to cover it with caulk, and it just doesn't look right. If it's cut, if it's measured right, if it's cut right, the stairs go in, they look good, and it's just a professional install.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as you can imagine, we get a lot of pictures here, and people with feedback, and when we see these big, caulk, joints on the ends, some people are okay with it, and they say, look how great these turned out. And I see a big caulking, gap on both sides. But yeah, it's a professional install when it's a nice snug fit. It's really the way to do it, and it just speeds things up for them. It speeds, installer with the pre-finished treads and this tool, and the method of installation that I'm about to show you. an installer really should be able to get in and out of a house in less than a day for sure. So for the installer, if it's new to them and you show this to them or you sell it somebody this, you're just helping them, the customer and yourself, and it's $15, right? So let's talk about that installation method. There's a lot of what's Oprah say? Aha moments or something like that.
Aha moment.
When I show this, because you talk about covering steps and pulling carpet off and gluing them down, like seems hard. But what this little display is showing, what it's representing is, if you can see my mouse there, my cursor, this is representing the tread that's underneath of the carpet, right? You've pulled off that carpet. This is the original tread. Okay, we basically cut this staircase in half. And then this will be that original riser, okay? This is the overhang we've talked about a couple of times, that 1.25 inch overhang. So a lot of installers still, even today, will come in when they are covering a set of steps, and they'll cut that overhang off, okay? And there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine to do that, except that for one, you make a mess cutting that off, and I would say most of the time, it really kind of depends on how the steps were built, but most of the time, this original stair tread is mortised into that white stringer, which means when they cut that off, they're leaving a big hole or a big void in that white stringer, which then they're going to have to patch it, sand it and paint it, and now you're at the job site for more than a couple of days, right? So what we're showing here is, instead of cutting that overhang off, shim it out. So again, we're working with 1.25 inch, so 1/2 inch shim with our new 3/4 inch riser. We basically have squared that tread off in the front. So this is your new pre-finished riser. This is the new pre-finished retread, and you've covered that steps. They go down glue. You're not face nailing anything. The glue is going to hold these two pieces of wood. It's going to really make these two pieces of wood one. So there's really no need for nails. That's why you glue them down. The only place for a nail potentially would be in the back. So when the installation starts, you're going to start at the bottom. Your first riser goes on, and then your first tread, and then your second riser, right? So the only place maybe for a nail will be to shoot one in the back of the tread, so that the second riser hides it. It's going to sit on top of that, so you won't see any nails in this beautifully finished stair tread.
Scott, it seems like we always get the question, well, doesn't this make the stairs higher? Doesn't it raise the stairs?
Well, it does, but you're raising everything in a staircase. So really the only issue, or the only thing that you should maybe look at, is the first step and the last step. Adding this 5/8 inch thickness to every stair, you've done the same. So there's no tripping hazard. You get into problems with a staircase as you're running up them, you get used to them. If one is different than the other, that's where people will trip over it every time, right?
Right.
But the first step, we have found a lot of times, it's not always the case, but we have found that a lot of times adding a new stair tread to the existing has actually raised this back into code, or it's closer to code now, because many times this pre-built, the original staircase is built, it's brought into the house early in construction, that staircase is dropped down onto the subfloor, and then they put the finished floor on top of the subfloor. Excuse me. So many times you'll find that that first step, this actually helps that. Okay.
Interesting.
At the top, depending on what the flooring is that's going in at the top of the staircase, you may find that last rise could be a little taller than the others. But there's really never any issue. We've never had any issue of a complaint or any type of chargeback for being out of code or anything. But it is a great question, because you're going to get asked that as you're selling this. But really the short answer to that is that you're doing the same thing to every tread, so you aren't really affecting the important part of that rise and the run.
Right. And I'll tell you, you talked a little bit about the amount of time that it takes to do one of these, and I dealt with a number of different installers when I had my franchise here in South Carolina. The main installer that I really liked going to for stairs, he was just very, very meticulous, and he would make sure he used a little stair tool. He would make sure that his cuts were exactly on, so there was no cutting twice and having to mess with stuff. He could do a set of stairs, let's just say a typical 14, 15 step staircase. He could start with carpet on it, pull the carpet off, get all the staples off, get the tack strips off, get everything cleaned off the stairs, fur it out just like Scott is showing here. He didn't try to cut the noses off for the same reasons that Scott mentioned. You end up leaving a hole in the skirt board. But he would fur them out, do one step at a time, and if he got started right at 8 o'clock in the morning, he'd be done by lunchtime. I mean, it's just that quick when the stairs are pre-finished and an installer knows what they're doing. He loved doing stairs. It was easy money for him because I mean he'd be done by lunch, and if he wanted to squeeze in another small job that afternoon, he could, or it's a nice short day.
Yeah, for sure. And they're the market right now. I mean, those guys are making it. I know of several people that they don't even mess with floors anymore. They're the stair guy in the city, and all they do is stairs.
Yeah,
because absolutely, and they're getting, you know, the going rate. I would say on average is probably $125, and I've heard of $175. Different parts of the country. That's what they charge in labor per step.
right.
So they're killing it, and good for them, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, this with these tools, they're doing it because everybody. It's a win for everybody. The homeowners, are in love with their staircase. The beauty of them, when you walk in the front door and the first thing you see is that wooden staircase. Yeah, it's the stair guys are doing well for sure. And it is, with the right experience and the right technique and the right tools. Yeah, you're exactly right, Arlen. Half a day.
yeah. They're not hard. I mean, it takes experience and it takes the right technique. But when an installer has the right technique, they're not hard and they're not that terribly time consuming.
Right. And really for you, if you're even for selling these, you should, you should salivate, right? I mean, when you walk in and you see this perfect box set of steps that has ugly carpet on it, it's an easy sell, and the margins are fantastic. You may make as much on the stairs as you do on the whole floor. So you look at it as an opportunity. We, like I said, we are busy because it's what people want anymore.
Nice.
I
Well, let's
think
see.
that wraps it up for me.
Yeah. So the
other
only
than
question
questions?
that I had left, because I know a lot of new people are going to be watching this, is what's the best way for somebody to set up, if they haven't already done so, what's the best way for them to set up an account with Stairtek and get access to order my stairs?
That's a great question. The best way is to email me. My email. I wish I had my. I usually have it, Arlen. I'm sorry. Well, you can forward it to it. I'm looking for my card. It's not there. Just email me or even customer service. We'll get you set up. Our accounting department is super busy. They're not as quick to respond as I would be, or the customer service. So my email is pretty simple. It's sbrown, SBROWN. It's all over. It's all over down here on the bottom of my demo mode. But sbrown@stairtek.com. Send me that information. If you need the paperwork, I believe that you have it. But if you don't, let me know. I'll get you the proper forms for you to get those filled out. And once we have that, we'll get you set up. Get an email out to you from OMS. You create a password, and you're off and quoting. So yeah, reach out. This phone number here that's on. That's our main line here. You can reach that.
Very good. All right, well, Scott, I'm going to stop the recording here. For those of you watching, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate that. Scott, I really appreciate your time today. As I'm looking at your screen, it's 2:30 in the afternoon and it's 28 degrees, and that doesn't seem right to me.
Well, you know what? It's a heat wave for us because it's been like 4.
Yeah, I can't do
I
that.
think a lot of the country is also going through this deep freeze, but 28, everybody's running around in shorts without a jacket today because
Yeah,
well,
I
we've
can't
had
do it.
last week.
I can't do it. I'll come see you in the summertime.
I hear you.
All right,
Maybe I'll just come see you
even better.
in the wintertime.
Even better. All right, thank you, Scott. I appreciate your time, and thanks to everybody watching.
All right. Thanks a lot, Arlen.